of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call shows that recording into progress. That the board trustees are present here in person, and Phil is joining us via Zoom. All five are present. So first of all, the approval of the meeting agenda. I would like to myself alter the agenda slightly and move 9.4 up to 9.1. So I have a motion to approve the agenda with that adjustment. Thank you, Patrick. And second by Debbie. To approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Bill, are you an aye?
Yes.
All right. So we'll move on. Is there any board member reports? No. The superintendent has told me in advance she does not have a separate report from all that we're going to hear later in this meeting. And we do not have either of the DTA or CSE reps present to speak, so we'll move on past communications also. And we are now to public comment. Is there any public present that would like to speak to items not on the agenda? I see none. So we'll move on to consolidated motion. I would entertain a motion for people to approve the consolidated motion. Thank you, Fiona. Is there a second? And Sanjay, second. Consolidated motion. So all those in favor of approving consolidated motion 8.1, 2, and 3, say aye.
We have a question, personnel on here, it's supposed to be approving personnel report.
Are we? Oh, well, then we can. It's not on this one, so can we? How do you do that?
What's even on the original?
It wasn't. It wasn't.
If it wasn't, then I think what we'll do is we'll just wait until the end of the summer board meeting.
The superintendent has authority.
Oh, yeah.
So the superintendent has authority to approve personnel in the summer. And so I would like to approve personnel that's prior to your scene. And I will bring that forward to all of you as a ratification.
All right.
And
We've seen it, we got it, it's just not.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So, sorry about that, y'all. So I'll go back to what I said. It was moved and seconded to approve the 8.1 through 8.3. All those in favor say aye.
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 Bill?
Aye.
Aye. And then we covered the personnel separately. And regarding personnel, though, the superintendent would like to make a couple of personal comments.
yes, thank you. We have people who are new, who were introduced at previous meetings, and we're so happy to have Kip here and Jonathan here. But this afternoon, I would like to recognize Nick Betancourt, who will be taking the role of assistant principal at Los Altos High School. And where's Nick? There she is, right next to him.
Yeah.
And so welcome. This will be brought to you in the form of a ratification, but we're very excited to welcome Nick to our administrative team. So glad to see you, Nick.
Nick, would you like to say a couple words? Or not?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank board and Nellie and especially Wynn. I'm really grateful for the opportunity and the trust you guys are placing in me. I've had worked in the district now 6 years. I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of our students and families. I'm just really excited and honored to have the opportunity to work with more of them. So thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Fill out our team. It is. Okay. So now we're moving on to business action, and the reason I moved that other item up so that we could have the end of the year summary and all that at the end instead of leave that one thing hanging after. So we're going to cover that resolution first, resolution number 21/22-59, order of election specifications of election order and consolidation request. Is there any comment or anything about that? Otherwise, would some member like to make a motion?
I move that approve resolution number 21/22.
And Debbie seconds it. If no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Bill? Aye.
Aye.
You see his hand in the corner there. That motion is passed 5-0. By the way, that is, has to kind of go with a year that has an election and say, the election's in November and it's a legalese kind of thing we have to do about election. Anyway, next is, there was a public hearing that I opened in the last meeting about the 22-23 LCAP. So we had not gotten any comments.
No, we've had no public comment.
So I will close the public hearing on the LCAP and entertain a motion to approve the LCAP report by. Okay, thank you, Fiona. Second. And Sanjay second. So all those in favor say aye.
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 I'd like to make a comment. I appreciate making the changes discussed. I just want to be clear now. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good thing about a public hearing and a good thing about a first and second reading. Is that then rather than change things on the fly or pass things that aren't quite the way we want them, we get it all fixed before the final approval. And then it seems like it's so easy, but it wasn't so easy. So great. Next would be the budget, and actually there was a public hearing on that too. So I not hear any comments about, we do not have a budget either, so close the public hearing on the budget and entertain a motion to approve the budget for 22-23.
So
Yana moves and sorry, Debbie seconds. Okay, thank you. So all those in favor of the budget, approving the budget for 22-23, say aye.
Aye.
All right, done. So all that Robert's Rules of Order stuff for the things we have to do and for the government that we have to turn in stuff to the state and all the authorities, the budget and the LCAP. And you think the election, we're done. So now we get to the fun part and the part that you all came for in the first place, which is the year-end summary and goal setting. So Dr. Meyer and everybody else here, except for us board members, take it away.
All right. Thank you, and special thanks to Terry and Mike, who just completed the LCAP process and the budget process. It was very involved and a lot of time went into it from both of you and the board. So thank you for that. And you're going to see the fruits of that plan and budget within this presentation. So first of all, this team has done so much in the last 3 years and worked so hard to ensure that the students are still receiving an excellent education despite all of the challenges that we've had over the last couple of years. And so what you're going to see today is really the fruit of all of that work we put in one place. And it's really so impressive and so wonderful that we are able to do that with this great group of people. So to start out, we're going to give an update mostly by departments and schools, and we really want to let the schools have an opportunity to speak to everyone about it because we have heard from other departments throughout the year, but it would be great to hear their end of year activities. And you've heard from me a lot too. And so this may be a little repeat in the next slide. So if we could go to kind of looking at our goals. We have students at the top and the center of everything that we're working on. And so as we look at the framework, which is back, this all we didn't just put all of this on paper, but a lot of conversation about where students belong and where they live. And you can see the other goals in our work to have a coherent plan that aligns all of the things that we're doing and really makes sense and supports each other in a very interactive way. So you can see we have our school site goals with many different plans. We have district goals that support our Board of Education goals. And then we also have done a lot of work around equity and equity as a base for everything that we do to support all students towards academic excellence and wellness. So this is a framework that we have been working with and from. And then the next slide shows you some of the things that we've done that fit under that. You can see some of it's a repeat. The WASC, the CSAs, the LCAP. Within these plans, we have SEL strategies, multi-tiered systems of support strategies. We've expanded ELD. You're going to hear all about the equitable grading, the Equity Alliance, ethnic studies. You've heard a lot about over this year, and ultimately student engagement. So all of our teams have worked together to lead with coherence. I think there's a few phrases on this next one. Okay, so our outline will be that within each of our departments, we wanted to do a 3-2-1. And so we're going to have highlights from 21-22, 2 areas of focus, things that we're focusing on, points of focus, and then a question that each of us wants all to ponder. And this was a great opportunity for all of our departments and schools to see what is happening at the other school. So we spent a good day and a half looking at this and creating this information to share. But as we know, being able to teach something is really teaching yourself as well. So to start out, we're going to go with adult education. I think that's the next slide. There we go. And I'm going to hand it over to Julie. You would never know it is Julie's first year. And take it away, Julie.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to share with you some highlights from the 21-22 school year. I just wanted to point out in the top right.
Julie, can I just, how about the presentations? Stand up at the podium, forward. Okay.
That's how we have this camera set up. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, and there's a clicker at the podium too.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Because then there would be questions.
Oh, yeah. The microphone's right there.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to share some of the highlights from the 2021-22 school year. And as you can see in the top right, second from the right, that's a picture of our new eye care technician program and our graduation of this season. Hey.
You guys want me to take? You guys don't want to see Phil?
I want to see them.
Okay.
So some of the highlights for our first full in-person return since the pandemic. The prior year was in full distance learning. See the bottom right-hand corner, that's Dr. Abaya's nationally certified medical assistant class. And we're happy to report that we're still at 100% pass rate, which is well above the national average of 65%. Our now nationally certified nursing assistants pass rate is back up to 100%. And that's an increase from 93% in the prior year when we were in distance learning. Our GED certificate attainment has increased by 55% since we returned back in person, and our high school diploma graduation rates increased by 15% from the prior year. You can see some of our graduates from this year's graduation on the bottom right there. And Mountain View Los Altos Adult School continues to be the top provider of instructional hours. Our North Santa Clara County Consortium consists of 2 community colleges and 3 adult schools. And out of those 3 adult schools, we provide 53.5% of the instructional hours. Why is this significant? As you can see below in the footnote, adult school CAPE or California Adult Ed Program funding is based primarily on the number of instructional hours provided per year. In addition, measurable skills gains and certificate. Now, Jonathan, our new assistant director, is going to talk about some of our points of focus for the coming year.
I think we cheated a little by adding 3 points of focus in. We added 3 to show that we are aligned with also district priorities as well too. So in regards to academic excellence for all, we wanted to continue expanding and improving our support services and our technology support for our students, especially coming from the pandemic. Obviously the focus on technology, the additional instructional technology that we're using in the classroom, we wanted to make sure our students were going to be able to adapt to the program that we're offering. In regards to professional learning, we will continue to refine not just instructional technology, but also technology that's in the works right now to increase collaboration, communication, and transparency. This all focuses on our refocus on our professional wide development plan as well. So as far as educational partnerships, I think a lot of people know that we all have a lot of different programs in the adult school. We have an English as a second language program, high school diploma, GED. CTE is one of the big areas of focus for our educational partnerships, and Julie, who actually does a lot of work with the CTE program, is going to talk a little bit about that.
So many of you know that we have partnerships with over 100 different externship sites in our community. We're going to continue to strengthen and expand those partnerships, particularly in the area of the eye care technician or optometric assistant program. I'm really proud about the ABHS partnership we did with Bill and Alta Vista this year. All the students from Alta who participated in the program beyond the first day ended up completing the certification, earning a B and mainly A's for grades in that program. We've developed this program further, so we're working on an articulation with Chabot College so that our students can earn credit in addition to the practical arts credit that they can be granted towards their high school diploma. And we're also partnering with the CSSO, the California State Society of Opticians, and their apprenticeship program. So once they complete our program, they're eligible to enter that program for free. That program pays for their ABO exam, the American Board of Opticians exam, which raises their earning potential. So right now, if they complete out our program, they can earn $25 an hour. And once they complete that certification, they can earn upwards of $30 per hour. They're also eligible to enter a Earn As You Learn program. So it's 1,000 paid work hours plus 144 instructional hours. And basically, they can find a job. They'll be working as they continue going to school, and they're working towards an associate's degree now in optometrics as well. So very exciting developments, and we look forward to partnering with Alta Vista and our comprehensive high schools moving forward. Jonathan's going to talk about our questions to ponder.
So to continue with our alignment of district priorities, we wanted to think about how equity sort of ties in with everything that we're doing, and how we can get the equity message along to our staff with all of the process that we're doing right now. Okay. All right, so I can just talk about it now. So as far as like our peer observation cycles that we had talked about, how do we tie that in with our teachers to make them understand that a lot of the work that we're doing, especially with the observation criteria, is really linked to equity. In addition to all the professional development, like what we're doing with the support for instructional technology, support for our teachers and our students, how does that relate to equity?
So mainly our question to ponder is how do we really infuse everything we do at Adult Ed with equity? Of course, our whole mission is all about equity. But Jonathan will talk a little bit more about our teacher observation cycles.
Yeah, so as far as the observation cycles, again, having points of focus for equity with the observation cycles, again, emphasizing to the teachers about how that's well. So other things that happen a lot with adult education as far as data collection and analysis, there's a lot of new sort of initiatives that are being brought through the state and the federal government of how data is being collected. So different things about student barriers, income levels, different goals for our students, whether it be post-secondary education, immigrant integration, those are all things that will really affect how we focus on equity with our school as well. So also, we're going to be going through our WASC full self-study report in March of next year as well. So also tying that in with our teachers and staff about how that would just make our environment a lot more equitable for our stakeholders. So I'd like to invite any questions from the board members or any comments.
I love the adult school course. You're still doing some fee-based classes that are just, if you will, for fun.
Yes, we have classes at the Fountain Community Center and the Senior Center as well too. We also offer language classes at Los Altos High School evenings.
Oh, and we have some good news. There is an uptick, an increase in enrollment. This program right now. People are really more.
Bill, Sandy, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's excellent. You know what you said. We're very proud of the middle school, the proper leadership we have there. So excellent job. Thank you.
I think once you're recording, it's not screen sharing, so.
Mike doesn't have time to eat. Yeah.
He's not seeing the slides.
Yeah. Somehow stop screen sharing. So. See ourselves. We're getting there. Bill, Suzanne. I clicked the button, give it like 2 seconds. All right.
All right, so this is a monumental board meeting for me because I've never had a co-presenter. I've only ever presented by myself, and so I am thrilled to have a co-presenter. There's some other reason too, but we'll move past that. So we had a phenomenal graduation, very, very special. These are our sports teams. We have our volleyball and our softball, and we had a fun fair this spring. Kids had a blast. So the next slide, when eventually it shows up. Highlights. Well, this was a major highlight. We were named a model continuation high school again. And so my team and I, part of my team, went down to Long Beach for the continuation conference, and we were awarded our plaque for model school. There should be other things on there. Is this still coming? There we go. All right, so we had 3 things, highlights this year. As you may recall, we are in CSI status, that's comprehensive school improvement status because of our graduation rate. So we had 3 major goals related to that. First was to refine the referral process. When we got students referred to Alta Vista, we often got them so late in the game that we weren't able to get them graduated, so they counted against us. We would then bring them back for a 5th year potentially to finish. If they did not finish, they would count against us twice. So thank you very much to the traditional schools. They got the referrals to us earlier and did not send us any seniors second semester who could not graduate. So our graduation rate for students who were with 4th year high school students jumped 39% just by getting the referrals earlier and not getting referrals for guaranteed non-grads. Second part was building campus culture. And so to that end, we converted one of our instructional aides to a part-time 0.4 to a college and career advisor, who's Lisa Paulson, has been focused on the local community colleges, getting kids enrolled there, partnering with Julie at the adult school. And again, Julie, thank you so much. That was such a phenomenal program to start with. One of our graduates, the week after she completed that program, applied and was hired as an eye care tech the week after she finished. So phenomenal partner. Thank you. And then we need to review our credit acquisition. We spent the last several decades bumping up the rigor of our academics, but we didn't make adjustments for the way kids needed to accrue credit quickly. So in a moment of brainstorm that should have happened many years ago, we were talking about why are our kids so successful in summer school? They are able to complete 5 credits, they can knock it out. One reason is they focus on just one class. But the other reason is summer school is designed strictly for students who are repeating courses. And so EdCo says you can offer a 60-hour course to recoup credit. Alta Vista always required 75 hours or mastery related to 75 hours. So we adjusted to the summer school model for kids repeating classes. So if I'm a junior, I took US history. If I'm a senior, I took US history my junior year and I didn't pass it. Rather than requiring them to do the full 75 like we always had, we required them to do 60 like we did in summer school. As a result, 37% more course completions than we had before. So more kids graduating at a faster rate for all these pieces. We have 3 students remaining in summer school. If my math is correct, and that's always open question, if those 3 finish summer school, graduate, and it's looking good, then we should get out of CSI next. We should be done. Final continuation high school, very proud of the staff for putting together a very quick application process and getting that moved forward and getting the designation. But even more proud of the team for doing the full WASC self-study process in just a single year. Start to finish, 2-year process was done in a year because whoever was going to take over for me, I didn't want to have to go through that, not knowing much about the school and culture and everything that we've done. So get that done first, and we can hand it. So those are the highlights from last school year. Moving forward. It's a great picture. Great. So continued focus on implementing the CSI and WASC strategy. So the things we've already got in place can only strengthen our core mission, which is to get kids graduated and ideally get them graduated on time or as close to on time as possible. So again, the focus for both WASC and CSI, increased graduation rate. A recommendation from both of those processes was to, once again, have access to an academic counselor, and we will continue to, the staff will continue to improve upon campus culture. And by campus culture, we're really talking about that sense of this is a school that can move me forward in life, which is what ties back to that academic counselor so much, is that somebody who can guide them towards that end. So then we transition to.
So the transition to new principal, or this move into as we go into next year, really overlaps with our question and ponder. I have lots of questions, but I just have to say thank you. I've never had anyone in the 3 outgoing assistant principals when I took different roles at different sites. I've never had a transition like this one. the meetings, the leading me into this, just like you do for your Altos students, right? For Altos set me up well, and I felt I'm so excited. The transition of the new principalship, though, there's areas of focus that overlap. But via electives and clubs, which you see overlap into and positive school-wide events and connections made. Also growing post-secondary plan. Once you go home, you've already got a little bit of that training, you know the interest in what you want in your senior year to go after it once you don't have those guardians and teachers looking after you post-graduation. I think a lot of my focus will be continuing really good work on focusing on attendance and engagement. And really, we've been working on this for a number of years, I think at the sites, no doubt. But if in my role, I can really facilitate getting students seats in their classes and this structure and an ease of transition, if the opportunity is what a student needs of an alternative program, all of this included. I'm really excited about those pieces. We've seen, even I have students that their parents went to Alta, and I can already see the transition we've made from having late 90s, early 2000s Alta grads as parents, and now like the 2010 grads as parents, and moving forward. That for a long time, this excitement and this positivity around the culture Alta Vista has been growing, and I want to continue that. So if we eventually go to the highlight questions to ponder. I don't know how I killed it. I don't know what I did, but it overlaps. So there we go. So, how can we really make success and alternate programs accessible for all students knowing and communication, but for the students that really need it, to see it as that positive opportunity that they choose for their route to complete high school and move.
Any questions?
I have one question which I never knew the answer to, but can you self-refer to the, you say I don't like it here, not to be against the other. I'm just not doing well with this structure.
For sure.
Can I please go to all?
Yes. We've had I've had third generations say, it worked for me, it's not working over. We'll often get passed through, so students in the area would be assigned to Mount Los Altos, but prefers smaller school and those districts.
I'd say in the last 8 years as the site ED, I've seen the shift from the majority feeling like they were attendance-based involuntary transfer that might involve not fights, but a real discussion, discovery. Once you get there, once they tour with Bill and see the benefits to more and more students, they're there with you in the logic, they see the promise of it and wanting to go. I actually have rarely pulled the involuntary transfer form in the last.
So thank you for having us today. We are very excited to share our highlights and our focus and our pondering points. But just to talk a little bit about coming back, right? It was a delight to be back with our staff and our students on campus. And I think that's what's going to resonate for you in our presentation. And I just wanted to take a pleasure to say, we're so sad to have Suzanne go, although it was kind of cool to see Bill up here with the counterpart. And we're very happy having you join us. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Morales to get us started. It goes.
Trusted.
I have trust.
First,
I have trust.
backup device.
Okay. We'll wink at you, Mike.
So one of the programs I'm really excited about and happy to communicate to you is our Css program. So our Css program, for students who are identified by the state, made up of 9th, 10th, 11th grade students. Again, the goal of Css was to address the disproportionality identification of some of our Latino long-term English language learners and academic and promise students being placed into special education as an intervention. Now, working with our students and talking about personal connections, Css sounded a little cold. So we challenged our students to come up with a name that they could embrace and really identify with. So the students landed on the name of Rising Eagle. A lot of promise. We love this name because it was something that they came up with and it represented a positive desired outcome. We're happy to report that the average GPA for our students is of a 2.3 GPA, which is, as you know, very critical, making sure that they're on track for A2G eligibility, good academic standing. They are now eligible for athletics. And when we compare that to our control group of similarly identified students with some criteria, it was a 1.4 GPA. So again, the students are making progress. The Rising Eagles have been integrated into our AVID, ASB, SEL, and leadership group. An example that we would like to highlight is one of our students, Juan, who has not only become a leader in the class, but has been recognized as a student leader on the football field and in our larger school community. And
I'll pick up on that one of the things I'm so excited for Nick and for ASB is that we have of the 26 ASBers next year, 4 of them are directly from our Rising Eagles, and they were probably the strongest of panels. There were 150 kids that applied for spots. So I get to talk about, again, the most fun thing ever. Also, that's a link, that teeny tiny graph. It's for you later. So we know it's not legible right there. Renorming culture and climate. We often talk about COVID. Yes, there was so much that was challenging. And I think one analogy I like is that, the teacher that has the new prep in a year, it can be challenging and stressful, but it causes this whole opportunity for growth and renorming and creation. And Los Altos can sometimes be known for relying on our wonderful traditions, but sometimes students fall back on saying, well, that's not what we used to do. That's not the tradition, but is it the activity that serves our culture now? And I thought that students, I don't know if you all noticed it on sites, but one thing I noticed in the first 2 weeks is, I'm saying hi to kids and they're jumping and saying hello to me. And it never really died. But we saw that in the way they were engaging in things beyond their academics, but I wanted to talk about in particular, the student-led community engagement was a real highlight. It always is, but this year. Just as an example, speaking about clubs, all student-led to even be chartered, right? There were 131 clubs founded this year alone. They had over 150 different student leaders. And what was really exciting is the advisorships were really spread out there. On our staff, there were 105 different advisors, largely faculty, and some of them had one or more, had 2 or more clubs, but just to really see that many volunteering in different ways in their own passions to work with students outside the class is exciting. The club numbers and variety rebounded to pre-distance learning engagement. The club themes largely ranged from science and technology, cultural identity, competitive academics were back, economics and investing is really popular, and service as well to local or even national, international community. One exciting thing I noticed as ASB advisor and working so closely with class councils is that class council meeting engagement really increased. They were averaging 2 to 3 meetings monthly that's the grade level with the class presidents and so on. And that was an increase from past years, even before distance learning. And over 120 class council or club school-wide activities were approved by ASB and held this year, which means that clubs and class council leadership, so not as an academic class, but just these students that want to be leaders for their community, were putting things on beyond just their club meetings, but for the whole school, which is fabulous. Also returning from COVID, Los Altos highlighted, these are just pictures of the flyers. We got back on campus and there was so much awkwardness. I mean, we all work in high school because we love the awkwardness, right? It was the pair moments that we were talking about the other day and all these things, but we wanted to give them something to look forward to because we saw what was happening with social interactions needing to be learned from scratch in a lot of cases. And also it's nerve-wracking. So this Idea Spirit Fridays was new this year, to note things beyond just what ASB does, beyond just what sports do, but involving performing arts and lots of other things, so that students can get clear communication about it and plan in advance, weeks in advance, to get themselves there. And we had a lot of community building activities, Jumpstart Mentor Socials, even Jumpstart events happening for the freshmen in the ACT sessions or tutorial sessions, multiple club fairs, and then building out our rallies. We had a lot of themed spirit weeks as well. A week of welcome, homecoming, which had the parade back full force and all those exciting things, but also student-led wellness weeks at the end of each semester. We had Clash with the Classes, which is a week-long spirit week with night rally, and then ASB sports tournaments were back, including dodgeball, Earth Week, which was a collaboration with the club, as well as was Diversity Week. Lastly, I know I'm not the athlete, but apparently everybody else on Los Altos campus is. Another way students engaged in extracurriculars and community full course this year was athletics. Nearly half of our student body engaged in extracurriculars through sports this year alone. We had 1,007 athletes, and many of them were multi-sport. And we also just want to put it out there, you might know this, but there were 20 different Los Altos high school teams that qualified for CCS playoffs. And of those, 7 competed in NorCal or state level, which was a really great experience. Now,
thank you. My bullet point looks like the most boring one, but it's actually the most important one. I know the board understands that WASC is not just yet another acronym in the list of acronyms. Nellie pointed out the pyramid, and there's 14 different acronyms. And you know, as somebody who on site council works on SIPSA reports and safety plans and all that sort of thing, it can easily begin to feel like it's just another thing you do, but it's been at least 20 years plus that the schools and the district have made WASC the way in which we focus on continuous improvement, and the action plans are the document that are that. And it's not just that we've been doing this forever, but that we've been getting better and better at it. A critical piece of the support for that is the release period that a WASC coordinator gets. A certificated classroom teacher, the rest of whose job is being a classroom teacher, plays a critical leadership role in helping us stay focused on the action plan. That very cool little graphic there, which I don't think any of you have access to, Peter, so don't click on it now, but I hope you will, because this is one of the obvious and helpful innovations that Sarah brought to this, Sarah Alvarado, our action plan coordinator, a really well designed Excel sheet that shows us the progress we're making in our WASC action plan. And what can be challenging, because there's a lot of goals there, is to remind yourself what they are, that there's a timeline to get them done and to do it. And over the course of my experience with the action plans I've been involved in, it really has become the norm. I think if you asked your average teacher at Los Altos High School, what's the guiding document? What are the things that we're aiming at to make Los Altos High School better? It's our WASC action plan. And I do hope you'll take a moment to take a look at that chart. It will remind you of all the action plan items we're focusing on. It gives you a sense of priority. It gives you a sense of timeliness. And we made a change prior to our WASC midterm visit, where we started with 6 goals. Seems like reasonable to us at the time, but maybe more than we could reasonably accomplish as focused items, 3 of which were data, facilities, and technology, which are obviously critical areas for improvement, but other people like Mike and others really help us with that also, and remind us of things we want to focus on. But learning and wellness and equity really are the key elements that we want to get better at and focus on. And I think that the WASC process for us is critical. When the midterm team came and saw us, they were very impressed with our choice to kind of prioritize even more clearly what our goals were. And I'm confident that this will continue the long-term process of Los Altos High School becoming an intentionally better school.
I feel like I should follow this, talk less and smile more. Let's go on. I am also happy for Suzanne to move on because she likes to steal some of my things that I'm going to talk about, but that's okay. So of course, wellness is important to us. I think we've focused so much on our students, which is obviously a priority, but our staff as well, we started to realize like we need to worry about their wellness too. So as returning from the pandemic, as we all know, mental health challenges,
the intensity of student concerns and needs continued to rise as we returned to campus, as some people also stated. Behaviors and social interactions were difficult for students. They didn't really know how to act with each other on campus. So as administrators, like, we have a lot to think about and how we kind of bring everyone back together on campus. So that was one of our focuses. Also, we noticed the mental health, was declining for a lot of our students. So how do we meet these needs for all of our students? And I think that's something we continue to look at. First off, I want to say, William, where are you? Right there. William has done a great job helping us kind of with the planning, the reaching out to our outside clinicians and everything that helps us kind of support what we can do on the site. So I want to thank him for that. We're starting to realize that one-to-one therapy may not be as sustainable as we thought it is. So we have to come up with some other ideas. And so we have our wellness task force that meets, which is site leadership, district leadership, board members that help us kind of discuss our service delivery model and how can we make changes to that. We also have been working a lot with MTSS and the tiers of intervention for both wellness and clinical services. Stuff that has come out of that and stuff that we're trying to do with all students, some of the tier 1 stuff is we had our healthy relationships webinar and also our substance use prevention webinar. Other things we have done is for student and staff wellness is we had an innovation team. Some of the things we did for students is that we had during ACT, we had activities where they could go and participate with our PE teachers and do some sort of physical activity so they're not always just locked in the classroom. Another thing, students were able to go in the library and build terrariums and different art projects that helped them kind of focus on something else as well. For staff, things that we did for wellness, we did hikes, we had yoga, we had the high intensity workouts that some of our teachers led. And we also had some end of the year celebrations that teachers were able to just gather and build connections with one another. William also helped create the Concern, so the employee assistance program, which helped our staff with mental health as well. And then things that we're looking forward to and doing in the future is working with groups. So based on the idea of one-to-one therapy, not necessarily working for everyone or not having the capacity to serve that, hopefully forming groups that support students. And I think it's a positive thing because it allows students to see that there's other people that are suffering or dealing with some of the things that I'm dealing with, and it's okay to talk about it with other people. And so I'm looking forward to that. We're also going to continue to have some tier 1 presentations with smaller groups, maybe on self-image, how to manage your feelings, responsible decision-making, et cetera. And from there, what I noticed that what this shows us is that about 35% of our referrals at our site come from staff members. And so, we put a lot of pressure on our therapists to kind of manage all of this, but I think what really needs to happen is a shift to how do we all work together and how do we build agencies so that we can serve our students. So we're beginning to have conversations more with our academic counselors, us as assistant principals, and really what are we going to do with our teachers in terms of, stuff in the classroom, SEL, and so really working together with our MTSS to show that we are a team and that we need to support our students as a whole.
Another point of focus, which we are super excited about, is welcoming back the EL program to Los Altos High School. Very, very cool. First, we have to say thank you to Mountain View and Perla for all the support. We remember what it was like, but we don't really remember what it was like. And so having the support from that team has been really beneficial. We have an amazing group of teachers who are stepping up to do EL. Most of them are veteran Los Altos High School teachers, and some of them were actually in the program. So it'll be a good thing. But we're really excited about what we see and how we think we can help kids. We have some interesting numbers though. We have about 152 students who have limited language fluency that are enrolled at Los Altos High School next year. Some of those are LTEL, so long-term English learners. Some of those students have IEPs. But currently, right now, we have 33 strong in our ELD program. And we have a really amazing program laid out for them with lots of supports. We also have built-in capacity so that if we have this surge that Mountain View shared might happen, we have space for those students. But we're very excited about working with these students as they come to us. The other group of our EL people that we want to work with are our redesignated students. We have about 670 redesignated students at Los Altos High School. And one of the things that we want to go back to focusing on is as students become redesignated that first 6 months or so, how do we help support them? How do we make sure that they actually are feeling comfortable, engaged, doing the kinds of stuff that we know they can do, but maybe they're a little on a slippery slope. Once they've been out for a year, they tend to do really well. One of our biggest concerns is that while we've had lots of guidance with what we want to do with our program, we're not exactly sure how to make it work with the numbers. So we do have a small group of kids and we have a program set up. We're just waiting for them to come. So send them our way and we're ready to go. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to look at data to make sure that we have a pathway for these students. The first couple of years they come in, they're very limited in what they can do because they need to build that language support. But we want to make sure that our CTE programs, our AP programs, our data or our end of the cornerstone programs are available to these students so that they have the same kinds of accesses. One of the things we're really looking forward to is working with Julie at Adult Ed to try to figure out how we can better support our students. So ELD is something that you're going to hear us come back and talk to you about next year, but it is a major focus in what we want to do. And I'm just going to stay up here for one quick second because we've gone over our time. We always have a bet here about this, but time is our point to ponder. We do so much. We do so much at the high schools. It's not just Los Altos High School. It's every single program that you're going to hear about in here today. But time is the limiting factor. It's also the most critical factor if you want to try to make the changes that we're looking to do. And so our thing is, how do we find time or use the time that we have to really improve our engagement? Galen's going to talk about a few items.
Yeah, we're trying to be quick about time. There's a lot to think about here. To me, the engagement piece, most of us imagine that having to do with the classroom, right? Kids engaged in class. That obviously requires time. The Bell schedule, the calendar largely determine what that's going to look like. But another critical element of this for our continued improvement is collaboration and professional learning time. I think it's the case that as a result in part of the pandemic, we've kind of backslid actually on the time we provide both for classroom engagement and for professional collaboration time. And so this really is kind of an ask to the board. I know you understand this, but to prioritize and thinking about the negotiations process, there's, I think, creative ways for us to imagine how to add time. We're not going to get there by shifting time around. There is not enough. But to accomplish all these goals, we have to figure out creative ways to add time to the schedule, whether it's during the day or during the year or both, because we're not going to get there in all the things we want to accomplish without adding time to the schedule somehow.
So specifically, you're saying adding time for professional learning, professional collaboration, and professional learning.
Yes, there's one question. We got one done.
Oh, I didn't.
You should probably say
We
that.
wouldn't be mad about students. So Common Prep is an outstanding way to provide professional collaboration time. It's by far the most a course team is ever going to get. But it's almost impossible to provide that to more than a couple of course teams. So our co-taught classes all have Common Preps. And if you had to guess, it would be ethnic studies, the new course, profoundly significant, key to our equity goals, also has a Common Prep. So we're very excited about that resource, but it's super.
Do you have suggestions on ways to do that or find time?
We do?
A dangerous question to ask you.
I promise I will share that with you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of creative ideas.
But I think just to really answer that question, though, I think really it does come down to looking at what our flexibility is. And we're going to have to be flexible. It's going to have to be something that we collaborate on. And the only way to really be able to do that is to look at our structures right now have very limited potential. As you know, we've talked about this a lot. So we're going to have to look outside that box and see what else is out there that doesn't break the bank and that doesn't drive everybody crazy. And I think there's some stuff out there. I do. And did I mess that up, Mike, with all my hand waving?
Sure.
Okay, blame it on me.
No, somehow it logged me out, so now I'm gonna log back in.
Thank you guys so much for listening to us.
They have two Nicks. Do not try to beat them.
So good afternoon. I want to say welcome to all the new team members. It's exciting to see you all. You're in for a great year next year. So sorry I'm not going to be here to join you. I also want to thank Kip for joining us, helping us plan this presentation. She's been trying to make that transition, and she's been here unpaid, joining us to help us out. So appreciate that too, and I hope it works out to be a good transition. Our presentation today will be reflective of our June 2021 board presentation and December 2021 board presentation, and an alignment of our goals with the district goals. We will present information about our CSACE plan, continued focus on literacy. We'll speak to our WASP goals and different pathways, and our final slide will revolve around our WASP report.
Trusted.
Okay, I am trusting it.
Embrace the wait.
Man, we were right on time too. Now we're gonna be over.
We'll hold it against you.
I can start.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I worked with our CSACE group, collaboratively with staff, the admin team, the counseling team. And one highlight was that we had an overall increase in GPA. For the target group that we worked with for the full school year, we had a 0.8 GPA increase, which is over the goal that we had initially, but 0.5. We met monthly and made parent contact on a monthly basis. And we also did some more using our STAR Renaissance reading tests, looked at literacy, because many of the students that are in those target groups are at various levels of English language learning. And the average for the target group 1 was 5.6 reading level, and then 4.6 for our 9th grade group that we just started working with this semester. That being said, we had a really good success with the students that we were able to meet with regularly. An example I wanted to highlight was one of our students, Jason. He's a reclassified English language proficient learner. Only Spanish is spoken at home. We made regular contacts with his father. Last semester, he had a 0.33 GPA, only passed 1 class, and was not very excited about school. And then this first semester, he was able to raise that to a 2.4, and second semester, 2.7 GPA for his final semester, and now is excited to go to college to study art and fashion design. So I really think if we can continue to see how we can expand some of the practices that we implemented this year, we're going to continue to see that growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about how we brought school to our site. Students who chose to opt out of returning to hybrid instruction. We had about 55% of students return last spring, but this August we had a total of 97% say I want to go back. I long to be back on campus. I long for that culture. I need to be around faces and people and teachers and staff. And that was so exciting for us in August. That's what we thrived on. And that kind of spiraled throughout the year of who we are as Spartan family and what we do. And it's all about our students and staff and being a family together. So super proud of the choice that students chose to come back. That's huge. And then that return to the pre-pandemic. What was school like in 2019, 20? What was that like? We forgot because we were so ingrained on how to create the online school, the online instruction, online ASB and student activities. How do we do clubs? How do we engage? How do we meet? We had to retweak that on how do we do this back in person. Thinking of students that truly our senior class was the only one that hadn't been on campus for that full year, being beginning of 12th grade, right? So a lot to be proud of and a lot of successes. Those clubs came back. As you heard from our sister school, you heard that there's over 100 clubs back, students engaged, working, getting back to the routine, and we're super proud of that. ASB did a fabulous job uniting our campus. Our advisors, 2 advisors that started over COVID pandemic. and I started over COVID pandemic. So of course, we tapped into the successes of our previous AP, Mr. Blair. Thank you for all your coaching and all your support, and our advisors that were before. How do we make this work online, but then coming back? We chose inclusivity, all students, all staff. We celebrated each student's birthday. Each student on campus got a birthday card and a tree. How do we acknowledge every single student on this campus and begin to build pride in our school? ASB hosted Spirit Weeks all throughout the year, Homecoming, Wellness Week, as well as Culture Week, celebrating all of our ethnicities on site and all our students. Again, that inclusivity, spirit, and culture across our site. The end of the year celebration, we held dances, believe it or not, with your approval outside. We had close to 1,989 students attended homecoming. No way do I imagine that in our gym. But we held it out on our field, and it was a lot of jumping that we have nightmares of. But it was fun. And again, it's that culture that we as a family, not we as an admin team, but our student leaders in ASB built. Homecoming happened. Then we wanted to do a winter ball indoors. Nope, can't do that indoors. Stay outside. Again, students chose to be present, chose to be included. Prom happened. And it happened indoors. And that was exciting for a lot of our students. I'm going to say a name, and as we speak, we're going to talk about an individual student because that's what is going to make this screen come to life. And my student is Philip D. You may know Philip if you're on our site, but he is a life skills student. That is just, he radiates energy, and he was kind of in a shell beginning of the year, believe it or not. But then he was elected homecoming court, and then king, and then Philip came alive, and fist bumps, high fives. That's what we do. It's why we do it, right? It's the most vulnerable students coming alive and being a part of our family. As far as wellness, we hosted our inaugural Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk. It's huge. On a Friday night in February, we made that happen. Shout out to the famous Lauren, our advisor, as well as William's support as well. Again, it's the team effort, and that's what makes the work amazing. As far as wellness continuing of Spartan Pause, I can't speak enough of that. You're aware of those events. As far as performing arts, a huge component of our school, we returned to what was pre-2019. Instrumental music, as well as band. Band had a full season of competition. Like, we got back to the norm. We held concerts. We traveled to Hawaii with all three of those courses. The choir, the instrumental, the band. Just amazing work, and shout out to our staff that made this happen. You know, we traveled to Switzerland as well. The Mavs made their way over to Switzerland. Some got stuck in Switzerland, but we won't go there. Athletics, we can talk about the CCS championships of girls soccer. We can talk about league championships. We had a wrestler qualify for state championships. This is a student life and culture that we can't overlook, because it was a lot of effort to bring us back to school. Thank you for your approval, bringing us back last spring, and the work we did to make school life happen. As far as robotics, they were invited to the national competition. It's huge, and our Science Olympiad, if you know, is the runner-up national champion. So think of the individual students involved with those clubs, with those teams, what their school life is about right now, how proud they are of their work. And it's because we made that happen. We as a Spartan family. Ending of the year graduation, oh my goodness, 33,500 people out on that field. All of the end of the year celebrations. Again, we made it happen together. That's what I'm most proud of to share with you.
So shifting from the fun stuff back to academics, it's my pleasure to talk to you about the third highlight, which encompasses literacy. So I wanted to also be clear that when we speak about literacy, it's not just about reading, but it's about listening, it's about speaking, writing, and reading as well. And our focus has really been across content areas, and here's our why. This started through our leadership team and an analysis of what Heather already brought up as the STAR Renaissance reading test. And an analysis of that assessment revealed that literacy continues to be a challenge with many of our students. And when our leadership team dug deeper and actually looked at those students who were challenged with literacy, and we looked at individual student profiles, we actually had a big aha moment when we realized that learners necessarily, not all of them, they weren't, there wasn't a major representation of special education, but these students were actually also in mainstream courses, and some of them were even in AP courses. And so that made us realize that our focus on literacy is really literacy for all, and that all teachers could really benefit from improving their literacy strategies in the classroom. So in the spring, we offered a staff-wide professional learning workshop that was really well received by our staff. And every teacher from ELD and SPED to AP benefited from those strategies. And it's embedded into our WASC plan, and we will continue to do that work across all content areas and all teachers for the course of our action plan. So we're really excited about that. The second point we wanted to highlight is reading with relevance. And this was something that Heather worked really well with our special education and English departments and ELD as well, to introduce reading with relevance, which is a very culturally engaging curriculum that our students and our teachers have learned to love. And it has excited our students so much. One particular student was really engaged with the book that was read actually in a couple of our courses, and it's called Street Life, Poverty, Gangs, and a PhD. It's by Dr. Victor Rios. The author actually came to speak to some of our students as well. And it's a memoir of a person, the author who grew up in Oakland amongst poverty, gangs, and all of these obstacles and barriers, and went on to exhibit incredible resilience and earn a PhD. And so students ate it up and loved reading Street Life. So next year we are expanding the reading with relevance curriculum. So it's not just Street Life, but that's a popular one. There's many offerings by it. So we're expanding from 6 to 10 courses next year. So we're very excited about literacy.
May I ask a question about the literacy?
Yes.
Are all those classes qualified for graduation?
Reading with relevance, you mean?
All the different ones, the 6 to 10 classes.
Oh, yes,
And
yes.
and are they A to D also, or?
So reading with relevance is just a curriculum, and it's something that is, used in the classroom. And the classes that have incorporated reading with relevance, some are A through G, and some are our supervised study program, and also our ELD 2, which I believe is not A through G. But next year, we're increasing the A through G eligible courses that are using reading with relevance. So, for example, our freshman survey class is using one of their units, House on Maple Street. There's a reading relevance component to House on Maple Street.
All right, hi, I hope you're not melting. Just my age. Just kidding. Just kidding. So thanks, all those things. So I am lucky enough, like Galen, I get fired up about WASC. I know some of you are like, yeah, girl, do it. So I think WASC is exciting because one of the best things about working in a school is that every day there is an opportunity to do something new, different, and better than you just did. That's for me, whether it's in the classroom, school counseling, and administration, that's where the magic lives. There's so much potential. So we had, as I know most of you probably know, we had our mid-cycle visit this year. It went super well. I will cheat a little bit, and I know it's points of focus, but I'm going to highlight just a few things.
No, I need some restorative justice. So they highlighted our continued high academic achievement, the great work that we do with career and college readiness, the incredible diversity and variety of offerings that we have to meet the needs of our students all across campus, as well as the support resources that we have. And that ranges from supervised studies / Spartan Scholars to the Tutorial Center, which was singled out again for the incredible work that Ms. Rafati and her volunteer army do day in and day out. They highlighted, I know we have a little tension here. They highlighted our bell schedule. And I know it's problematic in terms of meeting time, but they highlighted the availability of those 2 tutorials for our students. Those were things that came up in the focus groups when they talked to our students, that additional day really mattered for them in terms of having access to assistance, as well as, you know, thinking from a wellness space, just downtime, you know, time to be. They highlighted something that, you know, John spoke to so eloquently, the student voice and the student culture and the student community. So we hosted, as I'm sure everyone does, focus groups with our students. And they were super impressed with how articulate our kids were, how much they said that they appreciated all of the activities, all of the effort that our student leaders, you know, ranging from ASP, clubs, athletics, the arts, ambassadors, did to make school feel like a place where they are seen and appreciated and valued, which again, like, that's where the magic lies. And then of course, I was super excited. They gave a special shout out to wellness. So to Kristen and to William, my partners in crime in this domain, both our preventative and responsive wellness services was something that they said, you know, that's impressive and valuable, especially as we come back. You know, the space shuttle, I know Nellie likes space, the space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere, and being able to provide those services for our students. And then, of course, where the magic comes is what's next, right? What's the opportunities for growth? Where's the focus? And these are big things that we're striving for on the daily. And you heard my colleagues talk about some of them. They singled out communication and culture. And so you might ask, what does that even mean? What did they say? So effectively, they said, we need to recalibrate. You know, we've been, as everyone has in this room, in a state of incredible transition. The world exploded, COVID came, pretty much an entirely new administration team showed up. The F drive had a meltdown. I know, I shouldn't say it, sorry. And so lots of that archival data that we relied on for so many years was gone. And so the combination of those things, you know, people working in their homes, the absence of kind of and so we've already started to take a look at what we need to do moving forward. That shared vision, to strengthen our culture, and to refine and improve our communication systems so that they work for our seen and heard and appreciated, and that they're having their needs met, because when they're empowered to do their jobs, they can soar even more beyond what they're already doing. So we conducted a big survey of kind of needs assessment, where we're doing well, where we're falling short. As I'm sure you can imagine, we enjoyed a diverse array of colorful feedback. And then we were fortunate enough to have some staff be gracious enough to sit down with us in a series of focus groups so that we can really refine our understanding of what the needs are, where the successes are, where the shortfalls are, and what we can do better moving forward. And so, you know, there's a lot of work to do, but again, that's where the magic lies, is the opportunity to take what we've learned in the last couple of years and to work together as a team moving forward so that we are able to meet that goal and then to strive toward the other goals within our WASP plan.
Okay, and following up on the expansion of current technical education pathways and credit recovery options. So we did some research this year looking at our labor and industry reports in Santa Clara County to see where students would likely have the most job availability. And our top 3 industries were technology. We already have that pathway established with engineering, computer science, and architecture design in our school right now. So with the other 2, business, we surveyed students and did some research with Foothill, and we have 3 pathways within the business field that we're exploring: business and marketing, entrepreneurship, and international business. And we're going to be working with the Foothill team and making this a planning year for establishing that program. And then lastly, healthcare. We already have sports medicine, so that's one area that we're going to continue to expand. We have a very popular psychology program, so behavioral health will be another element. And then healthcare, hoping to potentially partner with adult education for students who want to enter the workforce quickly, and Foothill College, as well as 4-year colleges for students who are interested in pre-med. So those will be our 3 areas to continue and expand with. And looking at credit recovery post-pandemic, we've had a lot of challenges with students, not being able to recover credits, but not quite being in a position where they can always do summer school for a variety of reasons. So we're starting with a PE Flex program that will allow students who did not pass PE over the pandemic. We estimate we have about 87 students to start with that will be able to do a program that kind of combines some of the independent opportunities they had during, when we were virtual, as well as on-class experiences as well. So those are the 2 areas that we're using moving forward. Thank you.
All right, so questions, a question to ponder. Did I hit it 2 times?
I probably did. Are you pushing or am I pushing?
We probably both are.
We'll get to the right place.
So as Marty had mentioned, we did have a WASC visit, and they pointed out a couple of things for us, and she did speak to a few things. One of the other things is the shared vision with our entire staff, and she mentioned before, communication systems with our staff. We've actually done a survey with our staff about communication. We're using that data to meet with our leadership staff, determine what could be best utilized for next year. I think it's important that we continue to survey our students and our parents as well. We're also meeting with our leadership team to review our current vision and determine if revisions need to be made or if there needs to be a complete all-over of the vision. Regarding equity, we've received training at the district level, but there's a need to provide training at the site level. It's important that we understand the need for deeper conversations about equity, what it is, and have a deeper reflection of our own practices. Make sure that we're using equitable practices in the classroom. Wellness for all. Of course, it's evident that the students and the staff need more support in the area. We do recognize the rise in the need for wellness. And we look forward to working with the district office, providing support. Supporting staff, again, PD or training is an important aspect of education. And it needs to revolve not only around academics, but social and emotional learning as well. Marty mentioned the data is extremely important. A good focus on academic data and how to use it, but also equally as important is a focus on social and emotional learning data, attendance, behavior, It's really important that we train our teachers to get to know our kids individually, because not only do we need to know about their attendance and their behavior and their academics, you just need to know about them. You need to know them, what they're coming from and what they bring to their education as well. That's an extremely important part about helping our kids improve and succeed in their education. It's time consuming, it's hard, but it's a necessity. And that's it. That concludes our presentation. Thank you to the board and everyone here at the district office for your time and support. And question.
I have a question. First of all, thank you, Mike. It's been awesome having you here. And I do have questions about the transition. You principal. So do you have a plan right now, or you start working on it?
We're just sitting down, meeting and talking, and I'm trying to give her all the information I can possible in regards to the academic piece of Mountain View High School, what the culture is like, the students, my admin team, who has certain skills and how to utilize them and exploit those skills. Exploit's kind of a strong word, but it's really actually, you got to exploit those skills. So we talked a little bit about the budget today. I showed her what it looked like because she's used to a line budget, and we don't have a line budget here. We have a spreadsheet, which is fine. It works, so I wanted to have her become aware of that, because there is a way you can get into QSS and run a program for your line budget, but I can't find them report anymore. So Mike, Alice, you may have to help her out with that one. So, but yeah, we've been trying to have those conversations, and hopefully we'll meet again tomorrow and we'll talk a little more.
Yeah, I know, I'm getting ready to work on my new family health as well. There's all these little stems that you know that
Yes.
They're just like lessons learned that you learned over the years, which and it's hard to share all of them because you've done such a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, team, now that we're done with the schools, I would like to call for 7-minute break. Is 7:52? To have a bio break or another water or something. All right.
I gotta say, Scott, there is no way never, yes, not great, but us, decade, narrative of citizenship.
Oh, yes. Oh, you can miracle. I do. I was eating. That would be great. Hey there. And I have. You want to help me with this? You want to kind of mind behind you? Like on this one? You can show me that.
So it's the irony of going from like 14 to 5.
Let's see your stand-up comedy routine.
It's 7 minutes.
Party one. Are you going to I know. This is, got it. Is that like I created 7 minutes. Or you're supposed to ignore. Yeah. All right, are we ready? Team, are we ready? Yes. All right. Dr. Meyer, I now turn it over to you to present the part of the presentation on the district office with your people.
Oh, first of all, I just want to thank the school presenters. This team is the strongest, did an amazing job. In the presentation we care about and what we all value. So it was really exciting to see our work throughout. And oh, so to that end, I just want to have a disclaimer. You can tell Mike and I both did not choose the food. But
And ours isn't staged at all.
and our district office in a similar fashion is just such a strong team and cares so much about the students of MVLA. We're so excited to share with you the other part. And for those of you who know me, I'm easily distracted if someone puts a puppy in my hand. It is not mine, I wish it were. It is Carol from Mountain View. She comes by often, and this one, I sent this picture to my family saying, please give me a puppy. But anyway, you can also see the fun that we've had in the different photos here. So we have excellent presentations to share with you, the work that we're doing to support the schools, to support the classrooms, to support the students. So with that, we're going to start off with community outreach and engagement. And Michelle.
Oh my goodness. Now it's going really fast.
Kind of, there we go.
Okay. Oh, I swear.
Don't get clicked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is a portion of the presentation where we go really fast. Because as I had some parents so delicately tell me, Marty, I was chuckling at your colorful commentary. My year has been full of very colorful commentary from parents and students. And I had parents tell me in the most loving way, don't take this the wrong way, but we care about the sites. We will really care about the district. So my goal is to change that. That's why I have a job, right? And establishing trust and transparency with us as a district writ large is kind of where my focus has been this year. Everybody knows that we launched, I hope you know that we launched the Family Partnership Council in March of this year. We were fortunate enough to have, we were a little unfortunate in that we were delayed because of lovely COVID. It was very important to us that our inaugural meeting be done in person. And so we were a little delayed in making that happen. We had 2 meetings in person and then the meeting in May, which we have planned around for next year. We will not be having a meeting in May. We're going to work with the fact that everybody gets crazy busy. But we have all of our meetings on the calendar for next year. We had 44 members across the district, many of whom are in this room. Catherine and Debbie were able to join us from the board. We had parent reps from all of the large parent groups, so PTSA, Foundation, Latino parent groups from both sides, DLAC, both sides, boosters, right? All of the parents in the community that have reach into the constituents that we are trying to build more relationships and transparency with. And I'm particularly proud of the Latino parent
representatives on that group because, as we know, this has been a challenge and an area of focus for us. And personally, it has been a real joy to get to know Semini and Rigo and Azucena, and their willingness to be there and step into an area, ask for and step into an area that is not really ever been part of our district has been really personally gratifying for me. So I've really enjoyed that relationship building. Another big piece of the work that we've started with the Family Partnership Council to mirror what you all are doing at the sites is equity training and really starting to help build out in the community an understanding of what educational equity really means, so that they can then become our ambassadors with their constituents around equity. So when we're all talking about equity, we're all having the same conversation. And the most recent initiative that we've started, the first real conversation we've had, I think, is the graduate profile. We talked with the Family Partnership Council about our desire to start developing and creating for the district a graduate profile, which will kind of be, I think, most of us in the district know what a graduate profile is. It's sort of like the things we want to code for our students as they leave MVLA. But getting to that and getting the community behind that and all of the resources that it takes to really create a graduate that meets all of those really rigorous and high expectations is not easy, right? It's a process. So those same kind of focus will be next year. We're going to build on that. The other thing that we spent a lot of time focused on this year is student and parent engagement. And I think the numbers here are kind of interesting to look at. We did 6 thought exchanges over the course of the year. So roughly one every other month. And we had 2,600 participants. That's individual participants throughout the course of the year. So 2,600 opportunities for different folks, some of whom I'm sure were repeats, to engage and give us feedback on things that they cared about. This number right here, that 42K plus, is the way in which the participants engaged with thought exchange. So they looked at and rated different people's comments, which is really, in my opinion, the power of doing something like thought exchange versus a survey, because a lot of times participants don't ever see the results of the survey. They don't see what other people are saying. They see data that's kind of, mined by us, right? Whereas this is real raw data. We're just literally looking through and learning what other people in the community think and feel was a big part of why we wanted to use thought exchange. Because one of the lessons we learned, I think, sometimes painfully during the pandemic, was that folks can sometimes be a little insular in their experiences, right? And our role in this district is to think about all of the people that we serve, the students that we serve, and the families that we serve. And so having people be able to see that different perspectives was really valuable. Nellie and I took a lot of time in classrooms and focus groups this year. 15 doesn't sound like a lot, but actually when you look at scheduling and time and trying to get people together and going into classrooms and having teachers give up valuable class time, that we had, I think those were some of the most positive experiences that we had, and echoed what we heard from the students, echoed so much of what we are hearing you say that you're hearing from the students. Really, they were so grateful to be back on campus. And even we were in a summer school class yesterday, and the same idea of being back together with human beings and having a teacher that cared about them, could check on them, was universally came up in everything, even with parents, right? So that was a really powerful experience. We also established this year the Climate Action Advisory Committee, and I have been helping to support that. That's been great. The kids are the green team presidents from both sites and their advisors, Galen, and I'm blanking on, right? Who's the advisor at Mountain?
Allison?
Allison, thank you. Yeah, Allison. Are involved with that. And we have folks from the community that are involved. So that's been interesting for me. Climate action is not an area that I am a
proficient at in any way, shape, or form, so it's been a real learning experience for me too. Everyone kind of knows my involvement at the beginning of the year had a lot to do with web design and getting the web manager hired. That has now been handed off to IT. So just to clarify, I'm not involved with web design and in any real way, shape, or form any more than all of you are, right? So if I have needs, I know I'm going to Shona Davidson. But we also launched the MVLA branded app, which Bob was really helpful. Bob Fishman was really helpful in getting that launched. And I think as a form of possible communication tools for parents that works around some of the challenges we have, we really want to be pushing this out and getting this into the hands of people. We also are working on expanding translation services and access around translation materials and just access to the content that we have. This is going to be a long-term process for us. We do a lot of things in writing in this district, and trying to move us to a more video-based content that can be available in Spanish, especially for our parents that have literacy needs that maybe aren't quite as developed as some of the content that we put out, is going to be really key for us. So that's an area that I'll be spending some time on next year. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, so again, you're going to see some coherence with what you all are working on. Nellie and I are going to be spending some time this summer brainstorming businesses and nonprofit areas and so I will probably be reaching out to a number of you over the next few months to kind of get my brain wrapped around all the different pockets where we're doing this work. In terms of CTE and our graduate profile, figuring out, where are the gaps that we need to fill in terms of relationships with community, out in the community and nonprofit. And then we're just going to be continuing to build on, year one, unlike Julie, you can see my year one status. We're definitely in a building, capacity. And we'll be doing some small group based community conversations. I think one of the things that we learned, and Marty, I think you talked about this in your WASC focus groups, the idea came up about the over-reliance on email. And, that was a necessity during the pandemic, really the only way that we could communicate with people a lot of the time. And I think, trying to swing that pendulum back now to interacting and engaging with people face to face as much as we possibly can with our stakeholders is a challenge for us. And so that's a challenge for me. We're going to be kind of reaching out to parent groups and students and trying to have some smaller, more intimate conversations. Continuing to build, I jokingly said to Wynn as I was standing here, I said, can you guys come stand behind me so I feel like I have a team, right? Obviously, I know we're all a team, right? Large team. But I do often, think about how can I build more of a team across the district of folks that I work with. So my first ask is going to be to work with the community outreach liaisons. So Alma Morales and Maria Herney at Altos. She's back to, yeah, okay. To maybe try to start looking at those two to help us think about how we can work together, learn from each other, work smarter, et cetera. And then we'll be continuing to try to streamline our web-based and other communications, which we all know we have a lot of work to do. I'm excited to see what happens with, I have not seen the new site, the school site websites, but they're coming July 5th right here. So looking forward to seeing those. And the question that I am going to be thinking about and need your help with is, how can our outreach and engagement efforts really continue to elevate student voice, right? That's going to be, I think, our big emphasis next year as we try to improve classroom engagement. The students are so willing to tell us what we could be doing better. We just need to listen to them. So, questions for me?
I have a question, but given that we don't have a lot of kind of website
might not actually be.
See, I'm glad I said it.
Okay, so you don't have to be a deep dive, you can parking lot it, Nelly, yes or no, did we figure out the E-list solution for PTSAs?
It can be a yes or no.
It can be a yes or no. Oh, it's a maybe.
I'm teasing. We're still looking at that. We have some possible solutions that have come up that we're excited about considering. But yes, there have been some roadblocks with Catapult. So it is definitely something we're talking about. And important, we realize that, you know, our groups really want that communication and need that communication to continue to do it so well.
Right, it was in the communications fund,
Yes.
it's the shower, which is why I asked you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm remotely involved with that, so. Okay.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. So myself, Pearl and William, we had conversations that we should have a united presentation or if we should do our individual presentations. And we decided we really wanted to represent that we are a team. And even though we have very specific roles and responsibilities, we actually touch up on and lean on and collaborate regularly with one another of the work that we do. And so demonstrating that we're presenting together as a team. Sorry, Michelle. We'll join you next time. And part of our work is supporting our sites and really knowing what's happening at the sites and being there to be a support, to be a resource, to be somebody that helps accelerate the work that they're doing. I want to say before we get started with that, a thank you to Dr. Meyer. She recognizes the importance of the big picture of the Ed Services Department and all that it supports. And last year added the position of the Director of Student Services and Equity, which seeing the amount of work and what Perla is focusing on right now, just really appreciate that vision of what the needs are and putting it out there to create that space. So thank you for that. And we're going to present to you our highlights that we're proud of this year. And one of them is actually something that you've heard throughout all the other presentations. Their work on professional learning and what they've been doing with their teachers. It's part of our WASC action plans. And as a district, we recognize this importance. So much so that we set it as one of our 4 LCAP goals, professional learning. We developed action plan around it and supported that with funding. Part of what our job is as a district is to support the sites. And so us learning what the sites are doing, oh, there we go, click happy, with the professional learning can better help us support their work. I'll get there in a moment. So we put together a district learning professional learning committee this year. And we met regularly every 4 to 6 weeks. It was pretty diverse in the roles that were there, district administrators, site administrators, WASC coordinators. Part of our job as a district learning professional committee was to hear what the sites were doing to prepare for their upcoming professional learning days or with their course teams. And we were a source of providing feedback and ideas, as well as sharing best practices, as well as hearing what kind of support or resources we could provide for them. This created great synergy to where in April, we decided to have an intra-district professional learning day because we saw that the work that we were doing all threaded together with some common themes. And that led into preparing for our Learning Palooza and really communicating to our staff in a very intentional, transparent way. This is our focus. Culturally relevant teaching, equitable grading, discipline-specific literacy. Literacy is not just an English class. Regardless of what your discipline is, you are teaching language that is specific to your subject area. And these are not silos, they're all interthreaded together. As I was talking to one person at Learning Palooza who participated in equitable grading all through last school year at his site. He participated in the culturally relevant teaching strand at Learning Palooza, which was a full 2 days, and said, I now get it. I now get what the equitable grading conversations were trying to have with me. But until I stepped back and started learning about cultural relevance, I had a hard time making the connection of what was being talked about with the equitable grading practices.
And again, it really accentuates how interconnected all three of these are. These are not professional learning that our sites just decided upon or that our district decided upon. This was based on the WASP data, the LCAP data, and the CSACE data that says as a professional learning group, as our staff, these are the areas in the classroom that really need to be supported. So we built a strong foundation on supporting our sites and moving forward in this very purposeful, transparent way with our professional learning. And we're only going to build upon it for next year. And if I circle back to the purpose of our team overall, I also just want to say, sorry, I shouldn't be clicking. It's going to take a long time. I also just want to say part of our professional learning is also incorporating the rest of this department. William and Perla have been integral in this. They've been a part of our district-wide professional learning committee. William did sessions at Learning Palooza on social emotional learning. They were a huge success, and we're going to continue that into next year. Perla led ELD professional learning sessions during Learning Palooza throughout the summer and will continue into next year. And for the first time in or at least in a very long time, Perla is providing a continuum of professional learning for our counselors this year and into next year. And again, so it just accentuates the purpose of our team. And speaking of Perla and counselors, I'll use that as a handout.
So, it's been a while since we've spoken about all the good things that counselors are doing. And, it's been a tough 2 years for them too. They, just like every other teacher, had to modify their service model, and they still had to make sure that they help the students with the hectic college application process, the four-year planning, career inventory, and then just a myriad of other academic glitches due to distance learning and other things that were going on during the pandemic. And although the 11th grade interviews went super well, and they had very good feedback, I think that we really want to highlight the 10th grade workshops, because for one, they finally were able to implement them in the way they envisioned them. Small groups, in person, plus it is quite a different meeting than they had with their one-on-one. So it's also trying to pick up a new format. And this one was very well received by the students. We got feedback from them, and they really seemed to find it positive. The 10th grade workshops, first of all, are 45 minutes long. You're adding a lot of time that you didn't give the students to explore. And it's small groups speaking together. They're exploring interests, careers. They're also learning how to access mental health or academic health. They also did an activity for college readiness with Naviance. And this activity centered on students reflecting on who they are and defining their interests. Students asked to describe themselves as characters in a book. Then they had to create a plot around their experience in high school, including the opportunities they could have in the future or during high school. So this type of narrative exercise really strengthens the individualized author approach, which is, I'm telling me what I'd like to do. I am discovering myself. I'm going inwards versus this person's telling me to do this or this one or that one. And so it really gives them a nice practice of looking inward and really examining what it is they like. This also supports the goal of providing more social-emotional learning, and it develops their 21st century skills as they're collaborating, creating, and communicating with other students. So like I said before, the feedback was really positive, and we haven't heard anything about the shift from the one-to-one. I've asked around, and there really has been no comment. So I take that as a very good sign that these workshops are doing a great job for the students. At this point, the counselors are going to use all of next year to evaluate how the new model goes, because they haven't had a true year yet to say it's going to look like this. So we are hoping, crossing our fingers, that next year will be as normal as possible, so then we can go forward with the feedback. So then after they've had a year, they can present how the model has changed, how kids have used changes, because they've done quite a few things that are different and really strengthened it. Also for next year, the Los Altos High School counselors will be meeting with the Mountain View counselors to talk about how do I present
these workshops to ELD 1 and ELD 2, because they're probably going to need some translation, maybe some orientation to the American school system. So this is something that's really new, and I so appreciate all the work that OMView is just helping us with, because it's all different parts of 4 years that we're going to need some support with to remember how to support one grade level 1 and 2 of ELD. The 3 and 4, we know how to help, but really it's been a while for the level 1 and 2. Also, ELD is going to be meeting periodically throughout the year. So that's a perfect opportunity for counselors to send representatives there to also talk about what does it mean to go from a level 1 to a 2? How do I fill out this course selection sheet, and just get more strategies and best practices from them. It is a work in progress, but I will tell you, there is so much positive energy about this, and the counselors are pretty happy about the way their relationship is with the students, and that it's much closer, and they really do feel that it helps in the connection. So they've only asked for continued specific equity-focused professional learning in the future, so that they can enhance their model and help every single student, especially now that they're going to get, again, that new population of students.
Cool. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to start. We had a lot of highlights in wellness, but I'm going to start with a low light. And the low light was our students were struggling at the beginning of this year. They struggled throughout the pandemic. We know it because American Pediatrics, the Academy of Pediatrics said we have a crisis. CDE said we had a crisis. U.S. Surgeon General said we had a crisis. The child psychiatry said we had a crisis. And we work with our kids. And we know that there's a crisis. So my big challenge is, okay, how can we expand some of the partnerships? We know, and they don't always have a lot of studies with under 18, but we know that the 18 to 24-year-olds, about a quarter of them seriously considered suicide in the past 30 days. We're starting the school year. And we know this even higher for our young people. Same thing with anxiety and depression rates, all substance use rates, all that was going up. But we need capacity to serve our students. If 40% of adults are suffering with mental health or substance use disorder, well, then we're probably looking at about 50% of our young people. That's the way the stats usually roll. And so what we really try to do is expand our community partnerships. We have a really strong MVLA team, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the next slide. But what we really wanted to do is expand our community partnerships. And so you can see this little graphic. It's really small to see. But we started a new partnership with Community Service Agency to help with some of the social services need, the food, the legal resourcing, some of the, I just missed the last one, food, housing, and social resourcing and legal resourcing. We also partnered with Bill Wilson's. And so we had about 60 students that were seen by those two combined. I think we got a lot more capacity there. So part of our goal for next year is how do we do a better job of referring over to these agencies. We have Stanford Psychiatry, which we have for a long time. We started a new partnership with a company called Css, which is helping to link students with outside, finding its case management service to help students link with outside care. So we started that. We just started in the last couple months. We had 26 students so far that were referred over. That number will go much higher next year. We continue to work with CHAC, both in the clinic as well as on site. We had over 225 students, unique students seen. And then we work Uplift again. So we have Uplift, and so we have capacity there. We started to include mentor-tutor connection into everything that we do as well, because mentor-tutor connection is kind of more preventative, like kind of a lower level tier. And so really partnering with them to help create new matches within that program. And then we added the Stanford Health Van because we had about 454 appointments through the Health Van. So that's a lot of students that are being served, again, on Medi-Cal or with no insurance. In total, that's 929 duplicated students. So that's a lot of students being served by our outside agencies. And we're excited because we do feel like there'll be more capacity as we move forward. So going from that low light, the highlight is we're able to provide more services to more students. So based on the need, the presentation of the need, we've been able to expand some of those partnerships.
Yeah. Can you expand just a couple more sentences on the mentor-tutor connection? piece of this is that, I mean, obviously there's a bonus in having another adult caring for a student, and MTC is absolutely amazing. And how, can just a little bit of specifics on how they're tying into the wellness?
Yeah, totally. So, I got a whole presentation on this, but basically, we're trying to teach the students, you don't need to know what's going on. You just need to say, I'm here, help me. And every student that comes in the door, there may be a whole array of different presenting issues or what that student needs. Some students may just need that trusted adult in their life to feel connected to. That would probably be more like a tier 2 intervention. It's a lower level intervention. Again, giving the kids space to talk about their academics, talk about whatever's going on, another trusting adult. And it doesn't have to be a mental health professional that's providing. We do that in the classroom as teachers. We do it in the office as office staff. And so it's just another way to provide the connection. So Meditative Connection has been doing that forever. And so what I'm trying to do is get that to be a part of our referral process. So if a student that needs that kind of lower level trusted adult, us have an answer for them. Instead of, hey, well, we have a one-to-one mental health professional that you can meet with that we're going to be meeting with 6 to 8 weeks. And so we're just trying to expand our capacity so we have more support.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wow. So these are just a few of the highlights that we wanted to share with you. Supporting professional learning, the shifting of our counseling model before, during, and after the pandemic very successfully, and our understanding of we have great resources right within our community and expanding our partnership with those resources. We are not done with the work in these areas, but we have built a strong foundation to continue on. We do, however, have some points of focus that we're really honing in on next year. Our data has shown to us that we really need to take a look at our systems at which we provide timely, targeted interventions to the students who need this. One can call it our multi-tier systems of support. It's not new, it's existed, but we this year as a MTSS leadership team, that's district administrators, site administrators, has joined together to not only truly understand the framework of MTSS, but started to take a look at our tiers of intervention and recognize where we're strong and where we really have areas that we need to hone in on, focus, and grow. One of the areas is that we are working with our instructional support team. The most important tier of intervention, according to research, is tier 1. Having strong quality instructional practices that are responsive to the students catches up to 80 to 90% of all students staying in college prep classes successfully. So our instructional support team is working with those pillars that we saw earlier with professional learning, developing a course team roadmap, and working with what is the data that our staff needs to have timely, targeted conversations to support those students. I'm also talking to our assistant principals on the SAT and SST process, which is a tier 2 and tier 3 intervention for academics. How is it getting referred? What are those meetings and those monitorings look like? And I've also, we're also having Perla and William take a look at our attendance interventions as well as our social emotional or wellness interventions and become part of this tiers of intervention. And so we will once again be represented as a team and communicate to you our points of focus for next year, which is MTSS, but also specifically attendance and wellness within these areas.
Question. So in relation to the attendance approach, are we going to move in on attendance policy?
I would assume that that will be a natural process of defining our attendance, is taking a look at the verbiage of our current policy and how to support it, massage it to support the attendance policy that we feel is truly timely and interventive for our students.
May I ask one more question, please? Which combination, if any, of these early intervention partnerships cost money, or are they all part of this service that they do?
Are you referring to this group right here?
Yeah, CSA.
Can I explain that for my slides? Is that okay? Sure. I'll identify.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about attendance focus this year. In Santa Clara County, the number of chronically absent students has gone up from 25,000 in 2019 to an estimated 35,000 this year. That's estimated. We don't have the exact number. So clearly, it's a concern for all districts and many counties. So in November, our district was recruited to partner with Santa Clara County Education and Attendance Works to create to create a community of practice. We would do this with other Santa Clara County districts. They include elementary, middle school, and high school. Attendance Works is a nonprofit organization who have a vision that all students, no matter who they are, what circumstance, background, should be able to come to school, thrive, and do well. So it's important right now for me to clarify chronic absence. Chronic absence is not truancy. It's missing 10% or more of school for any reason. So that could be excused, unexcused, suspensions, mental health days, missing so much school that a student is academically at risk. So it's a much bigger thing than truancy. Truancy just is unexcused. So why a community of practice? Because tackling this issue is extremely complicated. You have to have a reorientation of staff, their assumptions, parent assumptions around attendance. You have to think about how you're reporting data and are you looking at patterns now? You have to plan multi-tiered strategies and evidence-based strategies. And also you have to have peer support. So everyone in the school needs to buy in and be a part of this plan. You can't have isolated areas. So it becomes very complicated because students are right now have so many different barriers to coming to school. And it takes a lot of work to find them and to help to get them past those barriers. So the tasks that we were given by the county were to create an attendance team, and attendance team members that are in here, please raise your hand. There's quite a few of us in here. We were to select a group of students who were either chronically absent or at risk, then to be creative and develop strategies that would increase engagement in attendance, then collect data to see is it making a difference, even in a very small group, starting with small groups at each site. When we first met as the attendance team, we thought, easy, we're gonna find those kids that are on the list that we've been calling, they're not coming to school, and we're gonna target them. We're on it, and then we thought about that, and we're like, well, how are we gonna get our hands on them? We can't get them to answer the phone. So that's probably not the best one. So what we did is we changed a little bit, and we decided to connect with students that are already on campus, but are not going in classes. And we have some of those students who are in little groups, and what they'll do is they might go to first period or second, but they're not going to go to third, fourth. You socialize and you try to get them to class, and then they'll move. And so those students, they're on campus. We can catch those, and we wanted to make community circles for these students. We would elicit information, ask them for suggestions, say, what would you advise your sister if you wanted to come to school every day? What would you tell her? What can we do? So we can get more information from students about why they don't come to class or why they come to first and second period, that they don't go to third and fourth period, and get information from them, and then take all the suggestions that they gave us and try to implement them based on what they said. Now, since this all took place closer to the end of the year, we really didn't have time to see very many students, but I will tell you that the information we did get was just mirrored all the surveys and interviews that we've already had in the last couple of years for both schools. And that's that students feel a lack of connection. They're not seeing their grades reflected in their efforts. They're feeling unseen by teachers. They're not a part of that community at all. And they're not connected socially. So what we're looking at is feeling like the other. And I sometimes say, I wish I could get rid of that feeling of the other, which is simply not sensing of belonging and of being part of the school. So looking at attendance to the MTSS model, we considered the community circle as a tier 1, because we're creating connection and engagement that we want to take into all the classrooms. So all the students can feel that and have a welcoming environment where they feel that they belong. So it's going to be all classes, all teachers, all students. A focus on home outreach support with additional intervention would be a tier 2 intervention for us. And this tier 2 intervention supports all the conversations we've had at the Equity Alliance Steering Committee about engagement versus discipline and our restorative practices conversations also. And of course, a tier 3 would be an intensive intervention that might community agencies and outside resources. So moving forward, we're definitely going to continue to work with the community of practice starting at the beginning of the year in fall. And our team will get together soon to select students for the community circle. And then we are also going to discuss the real possibility of a dedicated staff member to help support this tier 2 intervention. Because we are talking about equity here, and these students need that extra bit where somebody reaches out, engages with the family, then this is what we should be doing. And across another area that we've talked about. So really want to talk about that and sort of repeat that is a way to engage families, and it is an evidence-based practice.
Okay, I have a question. So in here somewhere, we talked about all of this before, referral to this, we have middle college, we have option B. Where in the attendance or even in the wellness does that intersect with recommending a different program or making the students aware of other alternative choices they could be having that maybe would suit them better in that one?
Well, here's what, which group of students are we talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Because you've got the different layers of students.
Yeah.
Students that are not coming, you're not gonna be able to do much with that, but the students that are coming, to engage them with something like freestyle, that would be amazing. So, yes, but once we start creating these groups that are stronger, we can start maybe pulling in talk just directly to some students, and we can build it. But it really depends what layer. And again, this last year and a half has not helped us to support students going to the program. So that would be an ideal. It just really depends on what student layer you're looking at.
And if I could just jump in, Perla communicated the trends of the data that she was seeing in the interviews. And it goes back to that original statement where tier 1 is so important. If you can see yourself in the classroom, if you're engaged in your classes, if you feel like your teacher is seeing you and your peers are listening to you, then you're going back to class. So it all goes back to really, the tier 2 and tier 3 are important, as Perla is pointing out. But I think a lot of the data that she said goes back to those tier 1s and the professional learning and working with our staff and creating that environment where our students want to go into class. And we don't have the chronic issue that we potentially are seeing. Sorry.
Yeah, this stuff gets me excited. I'm going to talk about in the next slide too. So we're going to talk now about the wellness side of the pyramid. Same deal as that Terry was just talking about, is really starting with the tier 1, really leveraging belonging and relationships in the classroom. And then in specific for what we're going to talk about with interventions here is increasing awareness of what resources we have. And so that's going to be a really important part of our rollout for next year. But I'm going to jump to the top of the pyramid here. The few students is roughly about 3 to 5% of our students. And these are students whose access to education is impeded because of mental health challenges, social service challenges, attendance issues, et cetera. And so we have our team that works with that. We have our wellness therapist, which is separate from our special education, our ERMS therapist, which hopefully we'll talk more about as we go through. We have Uplift, which does some of our Medi-Cal, and then we have Chat that helps with some of our wellness therapists, our intake coordinators, and our therapists that's serving gen ed students. So that's about the 5%. What we've really focused on in the last slide, and what we focused on in establishing this year, is more prevention and early intervention services. We just talked about MTC and how MTC would be a part of that. Going quick to Catherine's question, CSA, we got a grant from the City of Mountain View, which pays for our CSA person for the next 2.5, maybe 3 years. So that was a really exciting thing for us. Family advocacy service, oh, I'm sorry, CSA, that was from Joe Simidian's office. Sorry, thank you, Joe Simidian's office. The FAST, Family Advocacy Service, where we went to the city of Mountain View. We requested funding to do that, so we got funding for that. So those are free to us. Care Solace does cost us money. So that is a paid for service. Uplift PEI is a free county service. We've increased our capacity with accounting services over the last 2 years that we've been doing this. MTC, as you know, is a free resource to us. And then restorative practices through the Ripple Effects online curriculum is something that we paid for in a pilot. And so we started to create, for lack of a better term, alternative to suspension for substances. That's really was our focus in a pilot. We did a little pilot here these last 2 months. We had 12 students go through the pilot, and the ones that went through the system with fidelity, there was a lot of success there. I'd love to talk about that at another point if we have time. So this is kind of when there's early intervention or something that's gone awry. Usually it's short term, even if it's high acuity, and that's our tier 2. And then down here, as we talked about before, increasing our awareness of resources, community partnerships, and then leveraging SEL in the inclusive classroom. Really kind of, and big thanks to the IS team for working on this, looking at MTSS and looking at what are the tier 1, tier 2 interventions that we do within the classroom. In every classroom, there's some component of behavior going on. There's some component of social emotional learning because all learning is social and emotional. That's just by nature, right? And then we also look at the academic component. What are we doing academically to help the struggling students? So those 3 components are going on in every classroom. And so how can we kind of empower the teachers to see what they're doing really well and then leveraging professional learning to find ways in which they can maybe improve it. The last slide is our one question to ponder. And really, I have to thank Terry and Terry's leadership for this. We have done so much work over this last year and a half that it's really been hard to say. We have our professional learning, and we got a nice, clear vision and kind of where that's heading. We have our SEL, and after a little bit of meandering, we're like, okay, now we kind of see where we need to go. CTE, you saw it on all the slides. Like we're starting to build the CTE tracks. The MTSS is really starting to come together. Our wellness services being separate from educationally related mental health services, we're really building that structure and the functions of a wellness center. And so we're doing, and now discipline, starting to look at discipline and saying, how does all this fit together? And the idea is we want to build our MTSS system. We've been doing all these things and all these different nooks and crannies and all these different ways, but how do we create a really synthesized, cohesive system that has all of these elements built into it? Professional learning, the CTE, the teacher's roles, and all that good stuff. So we got the blueprints. So now our challenge is, how do we capture all of this work that we've done? And how do we communicate what it is we're doing to all of our educational partners so that everybody can see how it all fits together? And that's one of the things that we haven't quite done yet. And so borrowing, all the work that Mike's done over the last 3 years, it starts with the blueprint and then things start coming in phases. We start communicating, this is what it's going to look like. And then we build phase 1 and then we build phase 2. And each of those phases, there's all these specialists that come in to do the work that they do, from laying the pipes to doing the wiring to, putting up the walls to doing the paint, all of that good stuff. And it takes some time. So we're super excited under Terry's leadership in us kind of moving forward with all of these different elements to wellness, to attendance, professional learning, MTSS, etc. Questions for us?
I have a comment, and that is, I'm so glad that you have this as your question to ponder, because I've had that feeling like, wow, we're doing this stuff. I think over here, good stuff over here, and this phase, these counselors, those therapists. But where's the layout of how they get together? So I'm so pleased that we're getting that.
Quick comment. I'd like to say that educational services has never felt like educational services to the site, at least the sites I oversee, that it has the last couple of years. Where really the department has been there to serve the sites and kids. So kudos for putting the team together, and it's a great team. So I just want to make sure I feel the same.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I know it's a lot of listening, so I think rather quick. I know it's me and then Mike. All right. So, this is a presentation for personnel, and I can't start without thanking every person who sits in personnel. As the manager in personnel, you know, there's a lot of meeting and visioning and creating, and then there's the implementation, which is really critical to all facets of what we do in order to run the school district. And Amy, Laura, Kathy, and Pauline are the ones who do an enormous amount of work. It's extremely tedious. They have to track many different things. They're often the people that everyone calls first. So I owe a lot of gratitude to that team. I also, having COVID on here, want to mention Chris's contributions to COVID. Those are going to be specifically mentioned. So there are a lot of hardworking individuals that make this possible, and they do an incredible amount of work. As far as highlights, it's extremely difficult to just cull down like all that is personnel into a few things. But I think it was clear that COVID continued to be a presence on the personnel side. And I think, you know, the things that we want to say about COVID are that this team, we feel very proud about the way we took care of people during COVID. And we were ahead of our time throughout the process. We were implementing the refunds and paying for people to be out in quarantine before that became the rule. We were advising the county about the realities of messaging within the system and reporting, and they asked us to, you know, be a task force for them. We were putting out all this information when the information was incredibly confusing and changing, but we took the risk to just communicate it because people wanted to know. And it went from very individualized type communications to bulk communications, and it really changed over the course of time, but people were ready. So in the beginning, they needed those individual calls and the panics and the figuring it out on a one-to-one level. And then by the end, people were using the Google form and they were going to the FAQ and the website. And so, you know, I think we met people where they were. It took a lot of time on the upfront, but it really paid off. And we do, I mean, it was very heartwarming that people have recognized that we have taken care of them, whether they be the students, the families, the community, or the staff members. And every single person in here has been a part of that effort. So we feel super proud. Behind the scenes, Chris really streamlined. So when we started to get cases that were in the hundreds, that really changed. Like we were in the panic in the beginning, you know, if one or two people, if we, you know, had it at a school, and then, you know, we were dealing with hundreds of people. So that really required spreadsheets and tracking and sorting, and he did all that in the background. I would have never known how to do that. So he was an amazing team member in that regard. And then, you know, it's sort of funny because Mike and I, before heading over, we're talking about how the county's reporting that they have an excessive amount of antigen tests now that they're trying to offload. You know, how things have changed. Like we couldn't get a test, you know, a year ago, and now they're like trying to figure out before these things expire, where do they go? So who knows what fall will bring, but I think we're prepared for whatever is going to happen, and we'll just meet the challenge. I think that's all I'm going to say about that. So the effective sub coverage does go hand in hand. I think this is twofold. One, the pandemic brought more absenteeism because COVID and people out ill or needing to take care of family members, or just frankly not knowing if they had COVID or not. But the other thing is I think there was a reprioritization, and a lot of us talk about it between my peers in HR on just wellness and priorities. So people are taking a lot more leave. And, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a hard thing for a school district because there are certain positions that we just absolutely need someone there. So by raising our substitute rates, by raising the coverage rate and incentivizing people who were on site to cover classrooms, and then by having what we call the pandemic staffers, which I wonder how long we'll call them this,
but the cohorts of everyday substitutes that are there and embedded and picking up the absences, we were very successful. And so, you know, it's not ideal, but again, we found solutions. So we feel very proud of it. Up here in the right-hand corner are the Mountain View pandemic staffers that go every day. Right before they took this very friendly photo, they told me they were going to unionize. Because they know how much we need them. They're really a happy, lovely bunch. They wanted some additional perks. They found out who I was because I was over there helping out when some of the admin had COVID. And then as soon as they found out who I was, they were lobbying for their own interests. So we'll see what happens. We had 6,064 absences this year that needed to be covered because students relied on someone being there to cover that absence. So absences that directly impacted students a lot. So, so thank you to everyone, and really the office managers over at sites are calling around every day, patchworking substitutes with coverage. It's incredible. So again, all hands on deck. The priority on caring for employees, we've kind of touched on several of the points. I think our contract this year just should feel really proud about it, the way we approached it with our labor partners, the way in which people can know what to expect in many ways as far as compensation, calendar. Thank you to the board for being so supportive in that endeavor to just make sure people are feeling taken care of. I think they do. That's the feedback we've received. People have a sense of appreciation and acknowledgement, and that was much needed in this era. We also took care of classified employees with the application of merit pay, which was an equity issue that we were seeing where it was very inequitably distributed, and now it is absolutely equitably distributed. Also, classified employees who were in their first years of employment were paying the district back when we would have more recess days, and that seemed extremely unfair. And something that they would have never realized upon hire. So we took care of that as well. So these little things really making people feel better. We have the childcare on site. So there's a slight difference between the sites. Both sites have this, but it's much more heavy on the Los Altons wanting to have their kids come to their own classrooms, whereas the Mountain View group has a very large Oak Elementary cohort. And so they actually have someone supervising them before and after school, and they kind of go together as a group. So that's the Mountain View side. Employees, this has just been so much easier for them because with our late start and with people wanting to be on campus longer, it allows them to have their kids coming and going and them not having to worry so that they can stay and they can do the parent-teacher conferences and they can do the meetings and so on and so forth. So that's been super positive. And then again, to the whole personnel team, you know, we spend a lot of the invisible in personnel is just taking the call, you know, when people have something going on, and that's a wide variety of things, and just personally figuring out what is the best next step. So this can be something with their family or with themselves, with welcoming, you know, a joyous occasion of welcoming a child, or you know, a struggle where there's a very serious health need. So, you know, day in and day out, that's a lot of the work within the personnel team. All right, so our goals are, a lot of times we're just sitting there receiving the information, and usually when someone's calling, it's not because everything's going perfectly. And so what has been nice is getting out to the sites, and really Dr. Meyer encourages us to do this. And, you know, sometimes we just get bogged down into the minutia of sitting there and just receiving the information, but being proactive to go out. You see so many people and hear so much other information that you would not normally hear if you weren't there. And what are the things we can build upon that are going well is one of the areas that I noticed that people will talk to you about if you go seek them out instead of waiting for them to contact you. So that is something that, you know, getting out weekly is a goal of mine personally, and also for our whole team. Our whole team went to dodgeball and had a great time. I think to see the fruits of their labor and really understanding like the joy that is out there is, you know, food for the soul.
we want to do, we've talked about in cabinet acknowledgement forms, so just really letting people know that we see them and that we know that they're doing a great job and doing those proactive acknowledgements throughout the year. We are going to be reinstating our district office meetings. It was very hard to know whether we should do that or not this year with all the ebbs and flows, but just meeting as a district office team. We need to continue to update the personnel handbook. That was a big initiative when I first got here, and it was sort of overhauled, but it sort of needs like a dressing up again. So we're going to do that. We need to work on our interview questions and banks of forms. Those are a bit outdated. So that's another goal for the coming up year. We would like to reinstate our retiree for equity purposes, our one retiree event at the end of the year, so that people get, equal acknowledgement and celebration, and everyone knows the plan for it. So that's a goal of ours. And then our negotiation team and others are going to be working on our evaluation. There's two parts of it. Our evaluation process and forms, which of course we have to negotiate, but then also the platform by which we so we're looking into different platforms to make this better and maybe more, modern. So that is another goal that we have. These are the needed updates. And then at the negotiation table, we know we're still addressing bell schedule, professional development, and then CSEA has on the table a reclassification process. It has not worked since I arrived, which was kind of an annual review of our positions. That hadn't happened prior to my coming, and we've sort of struggled to get a process in place. We have one negotiated now, in which either the district can initiate a reclassification review, or an individual or group can initiate a reclassification review, in which a panel of people sit and listen to everything. Sometimes a job description needs to be updated. Sometimes a group needs additional steps so that they have growth opportunity within their unit. So we'll be working on that. And our question to ponder is, what other innovative and morale boosting initiatives can we incorporate next year? Because I think, always, I think if the happier and healthier we are, the better we will do for the students. And so I think our focus is really on how do we enhance the joy for the employees, and how do we take care of one another. So thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't ask. It's not that other board members, it's not a question. It's just the word innovative comes to mind in particular. Could not for COVID and so on do the same old. And that's old fashioned also too. So to be more modern and to get through this, we had to do something different. And your team and you have been so innovative and like you said, an example for everyone in the county and beyond. So we really appreciate all that you've done.
Thank
and
you.
your team.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
That's all right. You've all heard this before. Well, we'll get to business services and just jump right into the highlights from the prior year. And I'm going to let my esteemed colleague Elvis take it away.
So on the first bullet point we have is positive budget outlook, including negotiated raises. Obviously, we all know that we got very good raises and ongoing, which is the first time I've seen it since I've been doing the business office for 10 years. It's great to see that. A positive outlook is that COVID money we've been getting. So a lot of that has been giving us a lot of flexibility to provide additional technology to students, staff, and hotspots for students that are not unable to be able to connect to the Wi-Fi or anything like that. So that's kind of a positive as well. The paperwork is kind of tedious, but hey, we let us have that money so we can provide this education to the students. I think is our goal here, as we all talk about. Also, we are fully staffed in the business office finally, 22 months, not counting, but 22 months with at least one person out in our office. So retired people and our fiscal director left at the beginning of COVID. So Mike and I had to do a lot of the put in the gap. So as of February this year, we've been fully staffed. So it's been a great to have a full staff and be able to provide more service to you guys, because we're here for you guys. A lot of the times you guys ask us for money. We're like, no, but at the end of the day, we give it to you guys, but it's we're here for provide the services to you guys, and you guys provide the services to the students. We're here for the students. It's kind of like, that's what we're here for, ultimately to serve the students. Pass it on to Mike.
You're previewing a later slide where often the answer is not like no, it's, well, how about this, or what funding source do we call it? Or it's, you have the money to do that, just go do it. So another highlight in the world of construction, which is a theme and will continue to be a theme before we're done, is really, you think back, it was just a little under a year ago, we started using our new classrooms and moved into those and used them. Students are using them, staff. And so we just thought, as we reflect on the year, I mean, that was quite an accomplishment, point of pride, especially with COVID helped because it got everyone off campus, but it hurt with all the supply chain issues and some labor shortages. So that was very exciting to bring those first two big projects to completion and then start the next phase of projects.
Universal meals, all kids students have eaten for free for the last 2 years since COVID started, which has been great. We have not had to get any applications. It's going to change next year because we have to provide applications, but still all kids eat for free. This actually helps our cafeteria funding because we have not had to contribute any money from the general fund to cafeteria. This year has been the first year it has been self-sustained by itself. So that's great news. So we've had about 2,800 meals, which includes lunch and brunch. We've also been short-staffed there, the food coordinator, but I've kind of jumped in on that and helped out because we've had a lot of food shortages from everywhere we've gone, or vendors and stuff like that. But our staff has been able to jump in, provide the best service they can. Kudos to them because they also did a staff appreciation for you guys, which was kind of shocked me. I was like, wow, we can do this. And they're like, no worry about it, we got it. And they took the whole stress off, so which is great. This year coming up, food service will be covered by the state. The state will be covering the major tab of it. This is why the state is requiring us to do the applications. They're going to cover the tab, but the federal government cover the tab for that. So again, all kids eat for free. We're trying to not pay no money. All students eat for free.
So does every kid have to complete an application then?
There's not every student, but the state's saying if we can, let's do it. So that we can, because if they're free and reduced, the federal will still pick up the higher tab.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just doing accounting.
The state would like,
Sorry, I got
yeah,
it.
all the ones that's qualified, because then the federal government pays for those.
Yeah, the federal government will pick up that tab.
The
Federal
state's
government-
portion is small.
Yes, correct. Also, the state said it's gonna be seamless to us. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. Because the reporting said the report's gonna stay the same for on our end, but it's gonna be a seamless transition, but they're gonna figure out how much they give us for everything. Also with we're very close to hiring our food coordinator, and we're hoping for a way to revamp it, provide new ideas and provide different food options for our students, but still stay within the guidelines. And like I said, with food shortages, kind of limits what we can provide to students. So our menu constantly changes by the week, so we're trying to hold it down so we provide something for everyone else and kind of try for students to come in and eat here versus having to drive away.
You put a number 6,000 some absences, right? And so part of this number is to put context. Before it was 500 meals a day, daily, right? 600 daily meals versus 2,800, right? So exponential growth overnight with COVID. And so a lot of that was, let's just get food out, meet the requirements, which we're obligated to do. But it was just a challenge just to get 2,800 meals. And so Altos' point now, how do we enhance that? Look for a greater variety of vegetarian options, culturally, relevant festive meals depending on seasons and holidays and things like that, and just how to attract kids into something to looking at in the future.
Do we do that within Sodexo or do we have to look at a vendor? Right, this is way in the
I know. Yes. I mean, we can look at continued who we get it from, and then we look beyond that. So, yeah, sometimes we get it from whoever can provide it at this point. So we will transition, not on there the highlights, but part of what we often think of in business services is no news is good news. unlike some challenges even just today, where it's obvious when things don't work or the air conditioning fritz, is that there is a part that I think we just take for granted, that when the network's working, we don't hear about it, and that's great. And we don't really hear about it anymore, unlike a few years ago, we hear about it all the time. You know, when people get paid and they don't have to think about it, that's a great thing, right? There's a lot that happens behind the scenes, and there are districts who are struggling. You probably read about them on the news. I feel for them. I'm glad I'm not there. But these are things that, you know, in the background, we pride ourselves on providing, and people shouldn't really notice because we just work like clockwork, right? So when it doesn't work, it's like, oh, what's going on? So that's part of our point of pride. It didn't make it the whole point, worth sharing. In terms of focus, we're going to continue to enhance technology security features and network reliability. It's a lot of broad terms, but you know, we've gotten past that everyone has a device. Like that's just, it just is now, right? Students have it, new teachers show up with a brand new laptop for them. We're on a replenishment cycle. Every classroom has audiovisual needs in the room, and they're updated. So the equipment, the devices has been taken care of. And now, as we all experience phishing schemes and hacking and click on this link and go to this and can you verify this? And you know, you've won a new prize, just give me your social security number and all that stuff, and we'll send it to you. That piece of it, and somebody else mentioned it, and you know, we just own it. Our ransomware issue, attack a few years ago, we just read that the biggest 3 districts in the country have all been victims of it too, so we're not alone. But that's just becoming a larger focus and emphasis for IT, as well as network reliability, and that's code for making sure it works. And if the primary one doesn't, we're working to have a secondary line so it switches over, and then it makes the difference. And that's for things like when somebody actually cuts fiber optic cables accidentally. So you're down through one path, but you can reroute it and get connected to different. And then just continue a theme of construction.
Yeah, that's one question back in the technology security, but then on-site and off-site backups. So you have to speak to that too.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of that, right? And I'll work close with Bob in terms of the on-site, off-site backups, what that looks like. You know, we learned a lot from the ransomware attack we had. What was backups and where was it was crucial, right? And there's very much emphasis to go to the cloud and backups there. And I can't speak to all those details about where those backups are stored in various parts of the cloud, but I do know they like sync it back each night and don't have it on a server on site that could be a problem. So there is that part. And we added, this is an example, a generator to our data center. So if we lose power, before we'd have it for like 20 minutes and the whole thing would go down. That generator will kick on now, and all of our network services or apps that we run on that are still working before offsite.
And then the county, the Office of Education supports some of the technology infrastructure and also backups or not?
More on the infrastructure part, less so with the backups, but like there's this dark fiber ring. I won't get into the details of, but that's part of the network reliability and redundancy. So we rely on Comcast or now AT&T, but even the dark fiber that was laid years ago was great, and like Mountain View was not connected to it, right? So we've added a few more connection pieces. So you break one chain, you can circumvent it and go around it using some fiber that exists. And so that is a great enhancement that the county office is able to help us finally make that. And then I talked to the last board meeting about these ongoing construction projects. And you just walk through some of them to get here. So I think that's live and very relevant, but we're excited to bring those to completion at different points throughout the school year. And so just a question that we ponder, as we're in various meetings where people are asking for resources, is when you think about MVLA, and we have a lot of resources, right? Most of that's financial, but we have a lot of human resources as well, community resources. But as we look at how those are allocated, how do we ensure those resources are best supporting student needs and that those services are effective? And so in districts where there are not a lot of resources, you just don't have. So it's no, and just make do with what you have. In MVLA, we're very blessed and fortunate to have so many resources that creates a different challenge of a lot of yeses. There's yeses in terms of where's the best place to put those resources. We do a lot of, we have, and then we build on top of it. So the answer to a lot of questions or problems is let's just add more. Let's do more. Let's add more people. Let's add more programs. And are we doing that in a targeted, efficient way? Is adding more the best thing? Is redistributing existing resources or changing people's tasks? And there's a focus, a better way to deliver those services for the benefit of our students. So sometimes when we ask questions, it's not so much a no, but it's a, is that the best way? Is that the best use of the money? Sure, we could do it. Yes, maybe we have the money, should we? Sometimes they're a corollary question. Or could we do it better? Because when we just add, sometimes that's just more people and more things to manage and spin out there as opposed to being targets. That concludes our portion. Take other questions and comments, although we did get some questions. All right. Our last slide, so I'm sure there's no.
You're done with that part. Dr. Meyer, would you like to say something?
I want to thank all of you who are here, the amazing dedication, intelligence, and passion for the students of MVLA. And this picture kind of shows, they feel this way because they feel the love and the dedication that you all give to them. So I couldn't be more impressed with what you said today. And just really grateful for what you've done.
I would like to say thank you to what Dr. Meyer said, that thank you all for coming. And after school's out, when you wish you'd already gone on vacation, or had to come back from vacation, but didn't get to go to school instead of closer here. But thank you all. And I would like to hang out with every single one of you separately more often. So on. I do hang out, we do all hang out with our administrative team, Dr. Meyer, and also known as Nellie, Terry, Mike, and of course, Debbie, who's really a star. We want her, right? And, we've written out a card for each of you as a group, some brief comments to each of you guys. Debbie, one of you guys want to help me pass these on the session down? And then we want you to all, the 5 of you, to have a succulent plant to remember us by the summer. No, plants are always good, and succulents just keep alive longer than some other kinds. So they can even deal with some benign neglect. But we want to tell you about what are you saying? We want to say that we don't want to have benign neglect towards you. We do not want to neglect you. We either benign or otherwise. We want to support you, and we do think about you and appreciate what an absolutely fabulous district that we are the trustees of. And we will listen to you when you have input for us. And I know that Dan apparently has a lot. It's over in the summer. Take all summer to read it, right? Okay. So anyway, I would like to have a plan. Dr. Meyer, would you like a plan? I will. Thank you. And
Thank you so much. We're very fortunate to have a board that recognizes that we don't participate in benign neglect. But very seriously, we're very supported and appreciative. So thank you.
Thank you, Nellie. Thank you for all your support.
So I guess we have to, well, not I guess, I know we have to finish the official meeting, and that would be 10.0 board operations. I think that we don't need to review any more calendar events this time.
We'll be at graduation tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. We do. We do have middle college celebrations tomorrow. Well, I didn't forget I'm going, but mention it. Then, is there any other 10.2 communications or correspondence? No?
Yeah, we have something to say.
You do, okay.
Yeah. So it's been, like, it's not over, but nothing negative yet, but I just wanted to announce before we leave on the paper that I won't be having 12 years, almost 12 years. Just wanted to let you know. But it's been wonderful. I appreciate this final review. It's probably my and so I look forward to next year and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
My announcement is the same, although with 8 years and not 12. I will be stepping down in December as well. And this team is just been so fun being part of this district, being part of this team. So, you know, as Debbie said, we're not gone. You're stuck with us till December. But I would hate for any of you to learn this over the summer.
And as the newest member of the board who has not been on 3.5 years now, and I am running for real, I am going to try to stay on the board. Both Debbie and Fiona have been great resources and answers for me through the whole process of the board.
And we're not gone to December.
No,
Okay.
I know. Yeah, but I'm telling you now, it's still true for the last 3 years. So, all right, move on. Do we have board suggestions for future board meetings and reports at this time? The next board meeting will be August 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the board room. So, with that, I am at 11.1 adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Fiona, is there a second? Second by Debbie. All right, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Hi, Phil.
Sunday or anything on it? All right, the meeting is adjourned at 3:26 p.m. Thanks.